down, as we always do on Wednesdays, with our chaps from the Minerals Commission. And for the first time, they are fielding a woman at the table today. And it's because they are making gender mainstreaming the topic for today's conversation. We've heard about women in media. We've heard about all the players that take part in the mining sector. Why is gender such an important part of that? Why should we have a conversation around gender mainstreaming in the mining space? And today, to help us understand why that is important, we have a lawyer at the table, Fafa Kukubor. She is an officer, legal and gender at the Minerals Commission, and she joins me now. Fafa, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Thelma, and a very good morning to your viewers.
It's great that for the first time, at least at this table with me, Minerals Commission brought a woman, and it's because women also play such a key role in mining. Tell us what gender mainstreaming is all about.
Well, Thelma, gender mainstreaming is a strategy, right, that ensures that the interests, the concerns, the experiences of both men and women are properly integrated into mining policies, mining budgets, mining plans, mining structures. And so the purpose of it is to ensure that both men and women benefit from development and benefit from the sector as a whole. Now, I'll tell you this. You realize that industries such as construction, mining, utilities historically have been tagged a man's domain. And so these gaps have been created as a result of history. And so gender mainstreaming, it's a way or a tool that is used to fill those gaps and to ensure that both men and women benefit equally from the sector.
Okay,
so simply put,
from what I'm hearing, there was a system that was working before and it was male dominated.
That is so.
But bringing up the idea that there are women players in here as well, so when you're formulating policies, keep those people in mind.
That is
so.
So.
What you're saying.
That is what
okay,
I'm
so
saying.
what challenges did that system present which necessitated the setting up of a gender mainstreaming unit for these kinds of issues?
Right. So I must say that the experiences of women, even though we're in the sector, was not really captured historically. And so you realize that the sector could not really attract women. And in the cases where it even attracted the women, it failed to retain them as a result of stereotypes, biases, workplace culture, and things of that sort. And so these are the major challenges that have been in existence. And that is why, based on all these trends, the Minerals Commission thought it wise to set up the gender unit to look at issues concerning the participation, equal participation of women and men in the sector.
What do you do at the unit?
Well, so my mandate is to make policy recommendations to the Commission on issues of gender and child labor, to develop and coordinate strategies to integrate gender perspectives into the mining sector also. Yes, those are just a few of them.
Does STEM education play any role in some of the things you do? We are thinking, you mentioned that the mining space is less attractive for women because of the dominance or the perceived dominance of the male players.
Yes, that
so
is so.
Is STEM education, science, technology education, a key part or a small part in some of the things
It's actually
that you do?
a huge part because, you know, as the regulator of the sector, we could create the opportunities. However, those opportunities will require women with the requisite skills, expertise. And so it's important to highlight the career opportunities in mining, especially to young ladies at, most importantly, the second cycle levels, to actually opt for courses that would help them to have a career in mining. And I mean, we have some women who have made it in the sector. And so from then, I mean, I'll talk about some of our activities later on, but one of them is to ensure that we sensitize them on the actual potentials, I beg your pardon, actual potentials of the sector, and to ensure that they are fully participating. They're actually ready in terms of skills and expertise to occupy the opportunities that we from the government's perspectives will provide. Yes.
And I recently was watching a TED talk, and the quiz mistress, the woman we now come to know more regularly as our quiz mistress, was making a point that even our educational system is problematic in the fact that it puts the best of the best in the sciences, and then it puts the next best in engineering and other spaces, and then business, and then it comes down right to the arts and then other sectors. Is this something that you plan to integrate? Because you've talked about STEM education.
Yes.
When you're dealing with some of the things that pass through your desk, is it something that you're conscious of?
Yes.
And do you give people opportunities to prove themselves beyond what their documentation or what their results are telling you?
Yes, yes, of course it is. And I'm happy to even say that because of such rethinking of structures and things, we currently have our first deputy CEO being a woman, and so these are things that we take into considerations when we are churning out policies, plans, advice to the commission. And I think one of our most recent recruits was a female mining engineer. So these things are being properly recognized. I think that is the main thing, the recognition of the issue thereof, and the resolve to solve that problem or to fill that particular gap. So now that the recognition is there, I'll give you a typical example. So we passed the local content and local participation regulation sometime last year, and in that particular law, now there's the requirement for gender inclusive recruitment, and where the company fails to do that, there are punitive sanctions that come with it. And so now you see that the gender has moved from more of the gender talk or the gender agenda has moved from more of a commitment issue to that of a compliance issue from the regulator's point of view.
Inclusivity is key, and I'll ask this question related to something that I've asked you earlier on in this interview. When we talk about gender issues and the conversation begins, quickly we realize that it's usually women and the conversation on bringing women on board, and sometimes it makes the men feel a bit left out. Where are men issues in this whole gender circle as you're doing this mainstreaming?
Yes, so it's a controversial issue that whenever gender is raised, it's akin to women problems. That is something that we will not shy away from. But the issue here is, like I mentioned earlier, historically, there have been such trends. Such trends have led to gaps. I'll give you an example. For example, in Ghana, the first female mining engineer graduated in 1996. Now we've been mining from the University of Mines and Technology. We've been mining for over 100 years. And so if we have the first female graduating so early, then there's really the need to focus on where the gap is. The gap is women. I mean, put blankly, it is indeed women. And so until we are able to achieve some kind of equilibrium, we will continue to focus on women to a large extent. However, what we are mindful about is not to focus on women so much so that we create a problem with respect to men. You know, so there's at every point that need to balance is at the back of our minds when we are churning out policies and advice to the commission.
Right. What kind of changes are we talking about here? For example, do we have now that were not in play at the time before the gender mainstreaming unit was set up for Minerals Commission?
Yes. For example, the creation of the unit is one. We didn't have things of that sort, and so that's conscious and deliberate need to pause and make sure that whatever we are churning out, be it policies, be it laws, be it regulations, they are satisfying the needs of both men and women. That pause wasn't there. I always say that I feel that with gender and the issues that surround it, it's more of an inadvertence. I don't think there's any deliberate attempt to not let women or men participate in a particular sector. It's the fact that we are not conscious about it. We don't make sure that these policies that are being churned out have an element of the concerns of both men and women.
What kind of peculiar challenges do women in mining face? And I'm mindful that I'm shifting the conversation to women again,
Yes.
but because you have said that is because historically women have been somewhat disadvantaged in the setup of the industry. So what are the challenges that are peculiar to women in mining that you're seeking to help them overcome?
So the first thing is awareness about the actual opportunities that exist for them. So our focus is usually with women in the large-scale mining sector, women in the small-scale mining sector, women in mining host communities, women along the mining value chain. So the main issue now is awareness and knowing that, yes, indeed, there's no deliberate attempt to prevent you from getting the benefits of the sector. And so the need is, the awareness is to let you know that these are the laid down procedures. You can come on board. It may be some financial challenges, as we all know. And so in that regard, we work closely with civil society organization, women groups, and one of our major plans is to come together and form some kind of women in mining fund to help women acquire certain financial gains, and also to actually help them to benefit by creating some kind of entrepreneurial skills acquisition, marketing skill acquisitions for them to benefit from the sector. To make it a little more clear, I talked about the local content and local participation regulations. Now, in that particular regulations, there are certain services that are reserved for Ghanaians. And so knowing that these services are reserved for Ghanaians, we can encourage women to either come together on their own, benefit from such reservations for Ghanaians, and then build their financial capabilities to even do more.
We've had these encounters with the Minerals Commission at the breakfast table for a long time, long before the rebranding efforts even started. The fact that for us, for this new brand that started in July of last year, we are having a female from the Minerals Commission for the first time at the table. It means that all the professionals that have been here, the Chief Inspector of Mines, the Deputy Chief Inspector of Mines, have all been males. And the first female who comes here is a lawyer. She's not an engineer. She's not a. So is it indicative of the larger problem in the mining space that women feel necessarily restricted to stick to other aspects of the industry and not into the main actual mining?
Well, like I said, it's the ability of the sector to attract this women in one instance and to retain them afterwards. We know these stereotypes exist, these biases where girls are required to choose things that are a little more soft as compared to going straight into careers or courses that will ensure that they are. But I mean, the numbers are improving, I must say. We have a women's group, Women in Mining, that we work closely with, and you find geologists, mining engineers. They are doing a fantastic job, and so we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. And like I said, even at the top now, we have a female being a deputy CEO. So
that's great.
That
news
gives us.
It's great news for women indeed, especially those in the mining space. And when we talk about gender, children issues are always brought in here. And the mining field is roughed with issues of child labor, and some people have actually complained that whilst children should be in school, some people are engaging the services of children illegally because a child cannot work to participate in some aspects of this mining space. What's the issue there? What's the plan to eliminate child labor from the mining sector?
Right. For child labor, it is outlawed in the mining sector. It's as simple as that. And so any individual that engages in the act commits a crime. And even though this crime is well established, well defined, and the penalties are there, the main issue goes to poverty and the fact that people look at the short-term financial gains that mining presents to them when they use children.
Can you blame them if they feel they need to feed now?
Exactly.
You have to be alive today to do tomorrow's what needs to be done.
But the issue then again is such short-term benefits financially have a long-term impact on the health, the education, the growth and development of that child. And so if you are focused on these short-term benefits, you can't look forward to actually getting the best of the child if you indeed let the child go through school, run through the ranks and develop on their own. And so we need to create the awareness more, because like you rightly said, that narrative of feeding now is so urgent. You feel it immediately. However, you have to look at the bigger picture. That child could be the president of this country. That child could rise through the ranks and do so much more that your short-term financial gains may be of no consequence if you think about it. So those are the issues with child labor. But the issues of child labor cut across. And so for us at the Minerals Commission, what we've sought to do is to partner with the larger National Steering Committee on Child Labor, because if we solve the issue on child labor and mining, these children, because they are used to the perks of labor and they will move from mining to probably cocoa, move to fisheries. And so you realize that
just follow the money.
Exactly. It will replicate itself in several industries, and we may not make any headway. So for us, we are members of the National Steering Committee, and we work with the Child Labor Unit to implement the National Action Plan on Child Labor. And so efforts are being made in terms of sensitization, awareness creation, and even finding shelter for these children that have been affected by the, sorry, I beg your pardon, that have been withdrawn. That's the word I'm looking for. Withdrawn from these child labor practices.
I bet that for the magnitude of the task on your table, finances would be a huge challenge.
It always is.
Will I be right in assuming?
100%.
Okay, it's one of your challenges is financing. How do you work to pull monies together to do the kind of things that you're engaged in?
Well, thankfully, management understands the need to do these things, even though we are considered a spending unit because we don't really bring money into the commission. Management makes available the funds for us to do some of these things. In fact, we can't do all by ourselves. That is the honest truth. And so at certain points, we try to collaborate with our relevant stakeholders, because there are several other civil society organizations that are working along these lines. There are groups that are doing these things. There are NGOs. And so we partner with them, share ideas, and where there's the need to actually do some kind of programs, we bring collectively our expertise, our resources, just to champion the cause more and more.
And what are the challenges that you face? We've talked about, I've removed finances from that pot. What challenges do you face when you want to pursue gender mainstreaming actively in mining?
Yeah, so the issue of gender is actually based on culture. The gender discourse stems from culture a lot. So you realize, like I spoke about, the stereotyping, the biases. So sometimes when you are
what are some of the stereotypes you've heard?
This domain is for men. Women are not invited. I mean, I'm not limiting it to mining, but I'm talking about it in general, such that when you start to advance these things, they're like, oh, this. And like I said, the misconception that gender is akin to women problems, some people don't want to hear it at all. And so, unlike this platform where we sat down to go into the real issues, some people just dismiss it in the beginning, and it makes the work twice as hard.
So being dismissive of issues of gender in any industry is one of the key challenges you have to overcome every day.
Yes, and that challenge is embedded in culture and the things that we've known growing up.
How is culture at play here as a challenge?
Well, this is my honest understanding of it. So the fact that even in terms of choosing a career path, you realize that ladies or women or young ladies are encouraged to do things that are considered soft.
The arts, perhaps?
Perhaps. But there is nothing limiting them from going into the STEMs, except for the fact that, oh, it's hard. You might not finish quickly. And the worst part of it is time. you may have to spend so much time doing this. When will you settle? When will you marry? Things of those sorts. So that is why I continue to hammer on culture in a little bit, of course, in that dimension. I'm not in any way saying that our values are not right, but it's just that whole invisible blockade. But there's the world is our oyster.
Because the law or the laws surrounding work places no impositions on male or female from accessing any legitimate field of business, but it's just our minds and what society has told you
all the time.
So we have to start these things young to nurture the minds to be more accepting of inclusivity. So what's the plan to bring this down so that it becomes a part of growing up and not something you have to learn by unlearning other things that you may have picked up along the way?
Yeah, so for us, the plan is to ensure that we go down to when the young ladies actually have a choice or are able to make a choice. And for me, I see that arising more at the second cycle stage, because it is there that you choose to do either the arts or the sciences and things of that sort. And then going to university, you can choose, you're free to choose courses in geology, mining engineering, and things of that sort. So even though they may have been learned at home along the lines, the educational path gives us an opportunity to relearn their minds and to encourage them that indeed there are opportunities in the sector and they can thrive in the sector. There are women who have done it. We work with them closely. We can show them. Sometimes they say seeing is believing. And so you see that you have a woman who has risen through the ranks and is better situated in the industry. So that's the major thing that we seek to do.
One of the calls that we've heard, and we recently had the Minister for Education at the table and we're talking about STEM education, the fact remains that people fall off along the way for one reason or the other, finances and what have you, but it doesn't take from the raw talent or the natural skill of the person. So now there are conversations about how to even bring entrepreneurship and these skills from a non-formal education place to a place where they can fit into the world of work at some point. Is it something you are considering, that if someone drops out of school and could not continue and later becomes an apprentice or learns a trade, through that they could enter a formal work setting in mining?
Yes, rightly so. It's really possible. And so, like I earlier on mentioned, the services that are reserved for Ghanaians includes something like catering. And so if you fall along the educational ladder and you specialize and you are able to cater for events or for organizations, we could let you understand that there's that kind of opportunity in the mining sector, such that you are engaged by the mining companies to provide food for them.
Again, cooking, females. So is it something that, for example, if a young man was engaged in illegal mining, for example, and wants to turn their life around and get into actual legal mining processes, but they do not have the education, is there a system where they can train to become engineers or miners, as we refer to them in our part of the world?
Well, yes, what I know is that there's the ASM formalization going on, and so such miners or such persons that have previously been engaged in mining illegally would be put in incubation centers where there are thoughts about the skill and how to do mining sustainably and environmentally. So there's that avenue available for persons who wanted to who are interested in doing the right thing. And so it's coming up. It's part of a World Bank project that we are on now. And so hopefully we can. And again, when I mentioned the cooking, I wasn't restricting it to women.
Okay.
I was just saying that these are other avenues
that people
to enter. Yes, to enter the sector without necessarily.
Now tell us some of the exciting things, the activities that you've been up to in your unit, because I hear there's a lot happening.
Well, yes, most, like I earlier on indicated, it's mostly about sensitization, awareness creation, letting people know, dispelling certain controversies, and it's been quite exciting. We have been, I think the most intriguing one for us was a project that we did up north in the Savannah region, where women miners were trained on how to mine environmentally. And when we went back and we checked, we realized that their gold retention using the proper sluicing methods had increased. And so for me, it was a very fulfilling exercise, knowing that we're able to contribute a little more to what they are doing. Yes, and I think one of the other thing is the fact that policy now takes into consideration the need to integrate gender perspectives into the sector.
I'm excited to always see women rising, and I'll give you the opportunity to make some final comments if there's anything that we haven't touched on already. But why should a company or an organization, even if it's not a mining firm, be more interested in pursuing gender mainstreaming, considering, as you've said, it doesn't fetch the firm anything but it just spends money?
Well, the point is, I feel that when firms, organizations, institutions do this, they benefit from a bigger pool. So you have men, women. That's a larger pool to obtain developmental progress from. And so why stick to one pool and be shorthand and not thrive? Sorry, I beg your pardon. Yes, why stick to a short pool and not thrive when you can have everybody that indeed matters to join in and then ensure development and progress.
Fafa,
yes,
or should I say Council, thank you so much for being a part of our breakfast this morning. And you can watch this interview and other videos across social media handles of the Minerals Commission. You can follow them on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere they are there. Just look for Minerals Commission Ghana, and you can watch this interview and others, of course, on there. You can also watch a repeat of this particular interview, indeed the whole show, at 11 p.m. when it repeats, or just hit our social media handles, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and watch them all over again. We've been looking at gender mainstreaming in the mining sector, and lawyer Fafa Kukubor, officer, legal and gender of the Minerals Commission, the first woman at our table in this rebrand. Thank you so much. We'll get there.
Yes, we will.
We'll have another conversation.